Hello everyone and welcome to another Yes! No! 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 Shark Tale. Oh, the tales I've heard about this movie. Of its horrid animation, its insufferable main character, its amazingly bad puns, and its being so desperate to sound cool that it's like a stepdad trying to be hip so his wife's kids will like him. I knew all of these things going in, and yet, somehow, it's even worse than what I thought it was going to be! How is that possible? Well, let's take a look. This movie follows our main character, Oscar, played by Will Smith. He works at a whale wash, but hates being just a regular old nobody, and he has dreams of being big and famous one day. Not that he has any idea or vision on how to be famous, he just wants to be. And it's that type of attitude that puts him in debt with his boss, who he has borrowed a lot of money from. And now his boss is in debt with a mafia shark and needs the money, so he tells him to pay up or else. When he can't make up the money, he is taken out to be made an example of, but while that is happening, the Don Shark's son Lenny is also being taken out and being told that he needs to eat a fish because it will make a real shark out of him. He and his brother come across Oscar, and his brother tells Lenny to eat Oscar. Honestly, that doesn't sound like the worst idea. But in a confusion, an anchor drops on the brother, killing him. And so now Oscar is hailed as the Shark Slayer, hero of the people, everyone loves him, but the Don Shark is thinking that he killed his son, and so he swears revenge. On top of that, you have Lenny and Oscar meeting up, and Lenny, wanting to get out of the whole shark business, decides to pretend to fake his death with Oscar so he can then be a dolphin. And on top of that, you also have a gold digger girl, played by Angelina Jolie, and she's trying to seduce Oscar because now he's a rich somebody. And you have his friend, played by Renee Zellweger, who is just a nice fish who has secret feelings for Oscar, and of course is the right one that he should be with, that he doesn't even see her, and she's right in front of him the whole time. Okay, is that it? Do you want to add any more other story elements in here? My gosh! Let's fit in Casablanca while we're at it! And okay, let's start there. This story is too convoluted. Now, I'm not saying that I had a hard time following it, other than my eyes desperately wanting to look away. No, you gotta look. No, I don't want it. You gotta look. Look at it! We'll be stronger after this. If you look at most animated movies, their stories are simple so that everybody can follow along with it. I mean, most movies you can sum up in 1 or 2 sentences. Ratatouille, a story about a rat who wants to cook. The Jungle Book, a boy who has lived in the jungle his entire life has to go to the man village because a tiger is after him. Finding Nemo, a fish loses his son and travels across the whole ocean to find him. Simple, but here it's just so much stuff is going on, and it's just so crowded. This movie is so overly complicated, and you know what? It's even structured all wrong. Like, when I looked up the trailers for this film, here's what I thought it was going to be. Oscar and Lenny, they meet up, and then they realize that they could use one another, so Oscar pretends to kill Lenny, and everyone thinks he's a great shark slayer, but they keep on doing it. They keep on faking kill Lenny over and over and over again, so people keep on thinking he's killed multiple sharks, like they did in Dragonheart. Oh! And obviously you think, oh yeah, that's the way they went, but no, that isn't exactly what they did at all. They think he is a shark slayer because an actual shark actually does die. Lenny's brother chases Oscar and an anchor drops on his head, killing him. And I gotta say, that is an oddly dark thing to just throw in here. And really unnecessary.
So he's swimming at me, right? With teeth like razors.
Ooh, razors!
And I was all like, you gonna come at me like that? You gonna come at the O like that?
And you go from this really dark moment, and then the film feels like it's on fast forward, because we go from him being a nobody, this shark dying, to all of a sudden he's a somebody. And I don't mean like he slowly goes through the ranks of popularity. No, he goes from nothing, shark dead, now he's living in a penthouse and he has video games made after him. I'm like, wait a minute, what? How much time has passed here? This feels like it happened in a snap of a second.
Let's get this party started right.
But anyway, they have all that happened, and then it isn't until later in the film where Oscar and Lenny meet up and then decide to fake Lenny's death. You know, they do this, it feels like it's put together in all the wrong places. This film doesn't pace itself well at all, and it just doesn't even follow the cliched story that it's trying to do. What should have happened is Lenny runs away from his family, meets up with Oscar, who's on the run. They both form a bond, a friendship, and decide to use this, him pretending to kill Lenny in order to save himself from these mobsters, and then the story spirals out of hand. That's what it should have been, but no, it's not that at all. I mean, sure, that would have still been cliched, but it would have flowed better, because this pace of this movie is so off, and it just feels so rushed. And because of that, just so much stuff doesn't work. Like, you'll have later in the film where Oscar says that he and Lenny are now best friends. I'm like, bull crap, you just met 5 minutes ago! But with a world like this, I'm not surprised that it's a total mess, because this world doesn't make any sense. There's no reason that this should be underwater, you know? It feels like this was a script that was for either live action or just a regular story with humans, but they just backed out of it and made them fish all at the last moment because Finding Nemo was popular. You know, and it doesn't work as a movie about fish. It really doesn't. I mean, take a look at this scene.
Check it out. I got my 60-inch high-def flat-screen TV with 6 speakers surround, CD, DVD, PlayStation hookup, and an 8-track player for those days when you're feeling just a little old school.
Like, I'm not the only one that's asking the questions like, how would they have TV underwater or any electricity underwater without frying all of them? You know, you realize electricity and water don't mix, right? Did you get through that course in middle school? Or elementary school? Kindergarten? This isn't even a world like SpongeBob where it's so over-the-top stupid that they can have something dumb like a campfire underwater and you just roll your eyes and like, oh, that's SpongeBob. It wants you to take this world at least a little seriously, and because of that, it doesn't make any sense. Also, we can see because of the stuff like the Titanic and other stuff at the bottom of this ocean that there are humans in this world. And that makes it make even less sense, because if there was a Times Square underwater, we would have noticed it!
Hello and welcome back to our nature documentary. Today we are looking at the underwater world of the sea. Fascinating place where it is a fish-eat-fish world under there, with only the strongest surviving, or the smartest. Let's go into our hidden camera and see what we can find. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess we intercepted a signal from a camera filming in Times Square, New York. No, wait, what? Those are fish swimming around down there. What? Wait a minute, did the fish make this? Why did they make Times Square, New York underwater? How are they not all being electrocuted? Why is everything in this society pun-related? I must say, this is rather confusing for me. They didn't teach us any of this in school. I guess... But you know what? That's the way it is sometimes with nature. You think you understand it, you think you know what's going on, and then it surprises you at every time. Wait, that one fish has the face of Will Smith. Alright, which one of you drunk my coffee?
I mean, if you look at the movie Finding Nemo, sure, it's a different underwater world, but it still would fit into our world. You know, when humans see the underwater world, they're not like, well, this is odd. It's just like, oh, yeah, it's still a fish. Well, with the exception of the car chase and Finding Dory. But besides that, it still basically feels like our world. This movie just doesn't make any sense, and it's made this way because they're desperately trying to recreate Shrek. Remember, this was the first 3D animated film they did after the Shrek movies. They did Shrek 1, Shrek 2, and then Shark Tale. The only one they did that wasn't a Shrek movie before this was Ants. And so this was the first time where they were trying to recreate that Shrek formula in a different setting. And it shows how desperate they're trying to be with it.
I told that dude, I said, you see this guy? And I pointed like this. Well, he's got a brother, and he lives right over here. And I think it's time for a little family reunion!
Because as I've said before, Shrek was one of the big game changers of animated movies. It was a moment where they found out that they could make movies with adult jokes, and both kids and adults will love them. And so instead of course, realizing what worked with Shrek, they just doubled down on the adult jokes, and because of that, we get scenes like this. Stop trying to make fish sexy! We got too many fetishes in the world enough as it is. We don't need any more. My gosh, but this film doesn't just end there. It's filled with so much humor that is trying to be cool that it's painful.
Oscar! Raise the reef, buddy!
Yeah?
Oh, yeah, huh?
Hot! Yeah, that's pretty...
Come on, cabbage patch!
And okay, let me just say this, and there's no real easy way to say it without it sounding weird, but I'm just going to say it anyway. They made the fish black. And you might be like, well, yeah, they're voiced by black voice actors. What, you expect them not to sound like black? That's not what I meant. They wrote them to sound black. And when you write characters to sound black, you end up being like white people trying to sound as black as possible. And you know what that means? It's time for the stereotypes!
Check out my mad burner. Check it out. Whoop, there it is.
Whoa,
How you
man,
like that?
hey, y'all kids got some skills.
It's wild style.
Wait a minute, I mean,
You're into me for $5,000. 5 G's, okay?
5 G's, man, you tripping 5
Oh, yeah?
G's.
Sykes, he like you, man. He said take it easy on you.
Ooh, but Sykes is not here.
True.
And here's the thing, if you're playing a fish in an animated movie, you're not a black fish, you're not a white fish, you're just a fish! Because fish aren't black or white or anything, they're fish!
Baby, this is all gravy today. Now snap your fin, right on the, snap it.
Oscar.
You're not snapping it.
Oscar.
Oh, hey, don't sweat it, Sykes. A lot of white fish can't do it, man.
Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying black people shouldn't voice anything because their voices are too distinct. I'm saying you shouldn't try to make your fish sound black because he is voiced by a black actor. I mean, did you guys learn nothing from Dumbo? Because when you say, okay, this character is a fish, but we want to make him sound black, what do? You rely on over-the-top stereotypes in order to get the point across. And it's painful to watch.
I mean, everything's set. It's a lock. We good to go. We in the money. And he trips underwater. Who in the halibut trips underwater?
I mean, think about it in this way. In Finding Nemo, Marlin is played by Albert Brooks, but that doesn't mean Marlin is Jewish. And unless you're doing something like how in American Tail the mice were Jewish to relate the hardships of the people who immigrated to America, there is rarely any reason to make animated animals sound like a particular race or culture. Basically, if you're voicing a fish, then you are a fish, and you're nothing more than that. Okay, but now we gotta ask the age-old question that we always ask here on Animated Look Back. How's the animation? You can't hurt anyone else anymore. I don't say this lightly. But the animation is horrible! The worst animation in any of DreamWorks movies ever, bar none. There is no argument about this. I don't want anyone saying, but what about? I don't care. Doesn't matter. Doesn't count. Shark Tale is the worst animation in DreamWorks history. Period. Gosh! At least with a movie like B-Movie, it still had high-quality animation. It was just the story that was crap. It was still nice to look at. Everything in this movie looks ugly, ugly, ugly! Ugly! Especially the Will Smith fish. It is so terribly done and blatantly obvious that they're trying to cash in on his star power. And of course, you would never know it was Will Smith by his voice alone. It's not like he has one of the most recognizable voices ever. No, you have to plaster his mug on the fish's face! And it's creepy! They do this with a couple of the other characters too, like Robert De Niro's shark kind of looks like Robert De Niro, and Angelina Jolie's character has big lips, but none of them look as bad as the Will Smith fish. It's terrible. And it's the thing that we have to look at throughout most of the film. And there are other character designs like the jellyfish, the Martin Scorsese pufferfish, and so many others that just look bad. The whole design of them are just creepy, and the characters that aren't creepy are still not nice to look at. This movie is hard to look at, and I don't mean to keep on going back to it, but I'm going to anyway. In the movie Finding Nemo, they were so hard on all the different places that they were, you know? So when you were in a different place, you knew what you were because of the type of water. They did ocean water, they did tank water, dirty ocean water, dirty tank water, deep water, dark water, all the different types of water that you could think of. Here, it all looks like it's from a tap. It all looks like it's from the same place of water. And you might say, oh, it's not fair to compare it to Finding Nemo. Well, hey, this movie came out only a year after Finding Nemo, so they brought the comparison on themselves by trying to rip it off. And that is what it's doing. It is blatantly trying to rip off whatever Finding Nemo had with his underwater world and give it an attitude so the kids will like it. Well, the kids like Finding Nemo. I don't know anyone that likes Shark Tale. And the character designs, aside from also being ugly, are also weird. Like, how do the fish have fins, but they also have fingers on their fins? Well, they had to do it that way because their underwater world is obviously made for humans to live in. I mean, there's a fire hydrant in this world! Why do you have a fire? You are underwater! But yeah, the world has, you know, like they all have telephones, so they need fingers to dial the numbers. So everything of this world is just so obviously made so humans could live in it, but they have the fish have to live in it, so they have these weird fin fingers. It's just, it doesn't work. Now you might ask, is there any animated scene that pops to you in a good way? I guess the whale wash scene is actually pretty good. They have all the different creatures of the sea washing different parts of the whale, or like the eels are zapping the barnacles off, you know, stuff like that. That's all right. That's pretty well handled. But besides that, you know what? A 2-minute scene does not make up for a 90-minute movie. Alright, so now that we've come this far, it's time to go over a little checklist here. Let's see, world building, that's horrible. Animation is the worst DreamWorks has ever done. And the pacing is all over the place. So, let's see, and now it all comes down to the characters. And so, let's start on the positive, shall we? Let's start with talking about the best character in the movie.
Crazy Joe.
Now that you live in that great penthouse, can I be your financial advisor?
Well, that's a billboard, Crazy Joe.
You live in a billboard?
Yeah, I'm not even joking. At least this crazy crab gave me a chuckle here and there. The rest of them, they have nothing. And I don't have any more to say about the crab other than he's a crazy crab. Still the best character of the film. Let's start with the best friend character who's actually a love interest, Renee Zellweger. And I'll give her this, at least she doesn't sound like she's drunk the entire time in this one.
Well, he's not bothering anybody. Get out of here, you creep!
Anyway, her character is the supportive best friend who is in love with our main character. Now you might ask, why is she in love with him? And I say, that's a very good question, but you don't need an answer. We told you she was in love with him. What more do you want? You want a character personality from her? Okay, well, we got one. She is nice. Yeah. I mean, sure, we could have developed her character a lot more with anything, but no, we thought that the best way to go is to make her nice.
At least she treats me like I'm somebody.
Yeah, but would she love you if you were nobody?
Nobody loved me when I was nobody.
I did!
And we got this gold digger character played by Angelina Jolie, and she's the bad chick that only wants Oscar because he's popular and now he has money. And so, obviously, she's the bad chick, and this one is the right one because she is nice. Seriously, this is such a cliched thing. How many movies have you seen where the main character likes someone who is bad for them only to ignore the person that they belong with that was right in front of them the whole time? Oh my goodness, it's been done to death. But at least in other shows and other movies, they give the characters more of a personality. In this one, she is just nice. But hey, I'll give this character this. At least I didn't find her annoying. Pathetic, but not annoying, which is more than I can say for the rest of these characters. Like, okay, let's, Jack Black. Jack Black is in this movie, and you know what? Jack Black got a second chance with Kung Fu Panda to show that he can voice characters in animated films, be very good at it, give them a lot of energy and personality, but in this one, I feel like he's just holding his nose.
Dig, dog.
Dig, dog. Dog dig. Dig, dog. Yeah. Yo, Diggy Dog.
Just Come on.
Seriously, I find the voice that he's doing just really annoying. And his character is, he's a shark that doesn't want to eat fish because, I guess...
Fish are friends, not food.
Hey, I'll stop drawing the comparison to Finding Nemo when the movie stops ripping it off. If only they learned how to rip off to make a quality movie. That would have been great. Anyway, his father is a mob shark who wants to make a man out of his son, so he wants his son to kill something. And of course, Lenny doesn't want to kill anything.
Put the shrimp down!
And yet you're still the size of a great white shark. What have you been eating? If you haven't been eating fish, how are you this big? I mean, at the very least, in Finding Nemo, it seemed like not eating fish was a new thing for the sharks, and obviously some of them were cheating. And how is this a new thing for Lenny's father? I mean, he's a full-grown shark, and you've never noticed that he hasn't eaten a fish ever? Oh, well, either way, Lenny's character isn't handled all that well because I feel like he is missing from the entire second act. We see him in, like, the beginning to set up his character, then he goes away for most of the second act, shows up on the tail end of it, just to lead into the climax. But I will say this, even with Jack Black just holding his nose, he gets the occasional chuckle out of me.
When the anchor... Oh, you're a liar.
No, hey.
Still, not enough to make up for it. This film feels so desperate because it's like everybody is played by a popular name actor just so they can rope everybody in. I mean, Angelina Jolie is playing this gold digger fish, and I feel like this role is so beneath her. Fortunately, they gave her a great meaty role to chew on in Tigress in the Kung Fu Panda movies. They saved both her and Jack Black for good animated movies. But in this movie, I feel like there is so much talent wasted. And speaking of wasted talent, by the way, Hans Zimmer does the score for this movie. Wasted talent, wasted, gives it nothing. The score is nothing in this movie. I feel like he did it in his sleep. But hey, at least with some of the actors who they got, they were still actors. Because this movie has one of the weirdest casting choices ever, and that is Martin Scorsese as the pufferfish Sykes. What? Like, this isn't some, lower director that has some fame but still needs to make a quick buck on the side. This is Martin Scorsese, one of the top 5 most influential filmmakers of the last decade. How did they get him involved in this? Martin, thanks for taking my call. Basically, baby, I will cut to the chase. So here's what we want you to do. We want you in this movie. Not directing it, not behind the scenes. We want you in front of the camera, kind of. We'll be a star in the making. You've already conquered the directing world, dying to conquer the acting world. What's the movie? I'm sure you're asking. Here we go. It's a movie about a mafia son who runs away, and this impoverished man who's... Impoverished, is that a word? We'll go with it. Anyway, an impoverished man who's like... totally on the outs and whatever, and he accidentally, not really, but kind of kills the mafia's son. So then he's a hero to the people, but he didn't actually do it. The mafia guy wants revenge. Drama, totally up your alley, dude. And then we got the other son of the mafia guy, goes to the other guy for protection because he knows he didn't kill him, but he wants to be hiding because he doesn't want to be a mafia man. And so we got father-son drama. We got also a gold digger trying to get away, luring to the other guy. I am going on a tangent, I know, but gold digger, hot chick, played by Angelina Jolie, might I add, that already should be enough for you. Anyway, basically, we got crime, we got drama, we got death, everything you would want, and we even got sexy fish. But you know what? I think it's got everything you would want. Don't worry about that last one. It's a little detail. Come on. Do you want in? Do you want in? Come on. You gotta say yes now or else I'll get Michael Bay to come and class up my movie. Alright, great. Glad to have you on board. By the way, they're all fish. Bye. Holy shoot. In any case, he's terrible. His character is terrible.
No, snap it. You're not snapping it.
I'm snapping it.
It's okay. A lot of great whites can't do it, yo. Yo, what's up?
What's up with what?
Yo.
Martin Scorsese, I don't want you to ever say that superhero movies are not cinema. Because if you're starring in this garbage and you think this is cinema, then somebody put drugs in your coffee. Basically, you don't have a leg to stand on after starring in this crap. We also have Robert De Niro in this movie as the Don Mafia shark, and he's fine. There's really not a whole lot to say about him. He doesn't demean himself too much. His voice work is fine. His character isn't all that funny, but he's not all that embarrassing either. He's just fine. And that leads me to Will Smith. Now, I just want to say off the top that Will Smith should have a great voice for animation. His voice is very expressive, very fun. He relays an extremely charismatic personality onto the screen with his voice, and it should just be the perfect fit for animation. But writing goes a long way. And how do I say this? Will Smith's character, Oscar, is probably the most despicably unlikable protagonist in an animated movie that I've ever seen.
Everybody thinks you slayed the shark.
And who am I to tell them that they're wrong?
How could you lie to me, Oscar? Me!
Don't take it personally. Come on, I lied to everybody.
He is intensely unlikable. He has a super cocky attitude. He's also a really egotistical and greedy guy with no good reason to be. I mean, sometimes if a character is a little bit of a jerk, you can get away with it by explaining their personality and how they got that way. But here, there's no real good explanation other than people were mean to me. I'm like, well, just because people are bullies to you doesn't mean it gives you the right to be a dick to everyone else. And he's such a cocky jerk, and he never actually really says sorry for lying to everyone and pretending to be the shark slayer the whole time. And the movie ends in such an unrealistic way where, he gets the Don Shark locked into the whale wash and then basically tells him, hey, you're being a meanie.
What is your problem? So your son likes kelp. So his best friend's a fish. So he likes to dress like a dolphin. So what?
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I want to love my son now. I'll stop crime forever, I guess. Man, if only it was that simple. Everybody get down on the ground or I will shoot! Everybody in this room, hand over your money! I'll do it! I swear! Hey! That's not nice! Oh my gosh, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm just gonna go home and rethink my life. I don't know what I'm doing today. Mondays, right? See, the reason why, even though it is a cliched story, the liar reveal plot is used so often, even to this day, it's because normally it's an okay structure to your movie. Especially because even when the characters are doing it for selfish reasons, there's usually at least an understandable motivation behind it. Flick lies to the ants because he wants to save the colony, but also doesn't want to get in trouble. RJ lies to all the woodland creatures and over the head because he wants to get all the food so he's not eaten by a bear. Diego lies to Manny and Sid because he doesn't want to betray his pack, but then when he realizes that they're okay, then he tells the truth. There's usually a good reason for it, but here it's all selfish. The entire motivation for him for telling the lie and keeping telling the lie is selfish, 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 selfish. And even by the end, when he tells the truth, he never faces any consequences for all of his selfishness. And I'm not even trying to make a pun with selfish. It's just, he is the most selfish character protagonist that I've ever seen in an animated movie.
Hey, I didn't lie, all right? All right, I lied. But it was a little lie. Come on, who's it going to hurt anyway? Go ahead, I'm not explaining myself to you. You know what? You're on your own. No.
He is greedy, so he has money problems, and when his friend gives him the money he needs to get out of debt by letting him sell a pearl that is very precious to her, he overhears a conversation about a race, then bets the whole money on that race. Remember, that's not his money. That's her money that she gave to him to save him from being killed, or whatever. I don't know, it was kind of unclear.
5,000 on lucky day to win.
That's 200 to 1. That would pay 1 million clams.
Well, I guess that makes me Oscar the millionaire.
And yet he just bets it on a race. And he never apologizes for any of these actions. Except for maybe a half-arsed one at the end, but it's not enough. The movie ends and everyone likes him and they're just having a nice dance party at the whale wash, and he has learned... What has he learned? That you shouldn't dream to be famous, be a nobody, and you'll be happy? I don't know. Because, I don't know. Because, he gets what he wants, then he seems to not like it, then he regrets what he does, and then at the end he goes back to being a nobody, I guess, but he's still popular with everybody. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, I don't even care what the message is trying to be because the movie is so insufferable. I mean, this movie isn't even one of those it's so bad it's good type of movies. Like, when I watched the movie Alpha and Omega, I had actually had kind of a fun time laughing at the stupid decisions they made and some of the horribleness of the animation and stuff like that. You know, I had fun with how bad it was. This movie wasn't fun. It was a pain. Every minute of it. Bless my wife, she watched it with me and she's like, yeah, that was terrible. That was terrible. And I'm like, yeah, I can't, like, days later, we'd just be sitting around, you know, cuddling together, and she'd be like, another thing why this movie doesn't work, and I'd be like, yeah, it inspires so much hate. I couldn't laugh at all the dumb creative decisions they made. This movie was just a pain in every way possible. It wasn't fun bad, it was just bad. Horrible animation, terrible characters, jokes that are references to, like, The Godfather and Goodfellas, which are wasted on children, too many crude jokes for kids to enjoy, too reliant on puns and fart jokes for adults to enjoy, and it feels like a movie that was written by focus groups. What's hip at this time? Okay, shove it all in there and we'll get a good movie. Well, you didn't! It feels like it was dated the day it was released. I am giving Shark Tale a 1 out of 10. It is pure awful. That is the lowest rating I have ever given on Animated Look Back, and I don't make that lightly. Because I've watched some crappy movies on this channel, but none of them relate to this. Some of them even have, like, some of those other movies have, like, bright spots. Like, this is kind of good, and this would work if it was betterly handled. The animation is at least good. Nothing in this movie works. Absolutely nothing. And I'm not alone in this thinking. I put a poll up on asking what was DreamWorks' worst animated movie, and Shark Tale won the poll by a lot. And honestly, I have to say that the people who didn't put Shark Tale probably didn't do it because they didn't see it. That would be my guess. And it's just so easy to see why. The animation is horrid with Will Smith's face on a fish that is just such an ugly thing to look at, and we are forced to look at it throughout most of this film. None of the characters are memorable or likable. The story is badly written and doesn't even follow the basic formulaic story properly. Everything about this movie is annoying, and honestly, I did consider giving it a lower rating. Yeah, I almost gave this a 0. But at the very least, there's some creativity in this and a couple of chuckles. Honestly, I don't even want to give it that distinction, that it's the worst out of everything. I don't want to give it that much. It's just a purely awful movie. And honestly, unless you want to torture yourself, there is absolutely no reason to see this film. And I am just happy to be done with it. Whew! There it is. I washed my hands clean of this movie. I pour one out for the actors. Yeah. I'm so glad that I'm done with it. Honestly, this was a hard one to review. It was for a lot of times I just didn't want to talk about it or think about it or anything. But it's time to move on to the next animated look back, and for the first time, I am going to let you decide what is the next movie I review on animated look back. Kind of. I'm going to give you a few choices, and you got to go to my community page and vote for which one of these 3 films that you would want me to review. So your choices are The Rescuers, We're Back, and Robin Hood. Those are your 3 choices right there. You go to a community page and you can vote, and after a week, I will just choose which one has the most votes. I won't just choose, no, screw all you guys, I'll choose one. No, whichever one has the most votes will be the one I'll review next. And be sure to put in the comments other animated movie suggestions that you would want me to review. So thanks for watching, everybody. I am Laser Dude, and I'm going to have a nap.
A Shark Tale exclusive. Dying a slow death, like we did while we were watching it.
Rotten hell.
Rotten hell.